Hello everyone, welcome to the Art of Abstract Layout 2. This is session 1 of Artistic License, but the second layout. So we're going to do the same kind of technique, the abstract art with black cardstock this time, so it will look a little different to the first one, but it's really interesting to see how the paints look very different on black cardstock, so I just thought it was a really nice idea. So again, we're using that sponge blending tool. I've just put a load of dots onto the background. The paints are listed in your instructions, and you can see how you get that lovely texture by using that sponge when you use it just to press it down and move it around, you just get this really lovely texture, and you get color on your sponge and you can add that same color elsewhere, or you can wipe off your sponge and yeah, I mean, how good does that look after just a few seconds of doing that? Now I've taken another small little wedge sponge, and I'm just blending out the edges slightly, so just making them a little bit more blurry around the edges. It looks really lovely against the black. I just had to wipe off my sponge then because I got a bit too much colour, and what I really wanted was a dry sponge. This is a dry sponge, by the way, it's not wet at all, and I've just moved out some of those edges a little bit, softened them basically, and now I've just added some sprays of water in various places, and again taken my sponge and blended those out a little bit more. Now I'm just adding some extra white patches and some extra green, so I'm just constantly looking at the colours of the papers that I'm planning to use, and trying to work out what colours I can use and have more of to match. Now I wanted to bring in a little bit of the lilac colour that's in the papers and in the ephemera, but I didn't have a lilac paint, so I've added a reasonable amount of white and a tiny amount of the purple, and then it was still the wrong kind of tone, so just added a little bit of blue there as well to make this lilac-y purple colour, and I've just added that directly to the layout or to the background with my paintbrush, then I'm going to blend it out again using the sponge tool, and again it kind of mixes the colours together because I've already got green paint on my sponge, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to all kind of blend together and look kind of seamless rather than, you know, specific patches of colour. I want the edges of each colour to blend out and match into the next one. Coming in now with some big splatters of white paint. I've just used the white paint, watered it down a little bit, and used a paintbrush, and there is my completed background. However, when I come to make my layout, I need to add the perspective that says love this life, and it's black, and it just didn't show up very well against the background, so I've ended up having to make a change to my background, but I'll do that later, so you will see what I do with that later. Basically just added some more white paint. Nice simple fix. Okay, so I am using this beautiful paper with the wreath on it, and I am fussy cutting that wreath out. So I started off by, my initial thoughts with this layout was that I would create a circle or a wreath that would go around the edge of this abstract art that's in the middle of this background. But when I fussy cut it all out, I just didn't really like it. So I ended up going in a completely different direction. I still used the wreath, but I cut it into pieces. I'm just going to spend some time fussy cutting this wreath out, and then you will see how I end up using it. Okay, so you can see that my wreath is completely cut out now, and I'm also working on one of the rub-ons. So that big spray of 3 flowers together I've put onto white card, and I'm fussy cutting that out. And I'm hopefully going to use that on the layout as well. So you can see that the whole wreath thing is not working very well. I don't know if it was my fault the way I cut it, or if it's just on the design itself. I've ended up with a patch with very few flowers around that bottom section. I actually think it's supposed to be on the side, that if you have it officially around the right way, it's on the side, but it didn't look right. It looked better at the bottom, so that's why I was trying to see if I could pad out the flowers on the wreath with these flowers from the rub-ons. I thought I'd try some different things, so I thought I would try no wreath and see if I could make something work like that, but that didn't look right either. I'm just at the moment fiddling around, playing around, and seeing what is going to work and what isn't going to work. And then eventually what I decided to do is cut the wreath into different pieces. Okay, so you can see that I've decided to put the wreath on the side of the layout itself, and I love that big window piece of ephemera. Now, I would never normally like ephemera that was so large, but it's just a really lovely shape, a lovely colour. I love the tech. I always love white wood grain. It really has my heart. I was really drawn to that window, and then I've got the big spray of flowers from the rub-on that I've added onto white card and fussy cut out, and I'm really liking how that's now looking. So I've got this big arch on the left-hand side of the layout, and then another arch at the top right corner. Now, my biggest problem is I have the love this life perspective that does not show up very well on that background, and I end up going with what. I end up going with it as it is and sticking it onto the painted background and hoping that it showed up okay. But when I photographed the layout later, it really didn't show. So I had to make some changes, and I just added some extra white paint. But the positioning of it is pretty much where it is now. It's slightly lower, I think. Yeah, so that's what I did there. As you can see, it really doesn't show up very well at all. It looks better in real life when it was just on the just on the paint, but I ended up having to, because it didn't photograph very well and didn't look very good on this video either, so I made some changes, but I did them later. Okay, so I'm just going to get everything stuck down. I'm pretty happy with the layout itself, with the wreath. I'm really surprised that I went in this direction because I was so sure that I was going to use that beautiful wreath as a wreath on the layout, but so it ended up being very different to what I had envisaged in my head. But sometimes that happens, and you have something planned, and then when you go to do it, it just doesn't work. So today was one of those days. So yeah, I had to just work with what I had. So I'm just distressing the edges of that wonderful window there, and putting that in place. It's kind of just acting as a layer just in the background. It's not being used as a window effectively. Then I have that piece of rub-on there with those beautiful, beautiful flowers, and then I can just pop my photo in the middle there. So I love that as a base for my photo. The flowers and the frame itself is just all looking very lovely. I really enjoy that. And then I've got the big area of mixed media to the right, and then I have my flowers again in the top right. So it all is coming together quite well. So the only big problem I have is the title, but like I said, I will fix that. So I just wanted to put in some extra details. So to the right of my photo, I've just added the tag from the ephemera, one of the tickets, and then the circle that says today. Sorry about the camera shake there. Just going to get all of those stuck in place. Of course, distress the edges of all of them. I wanted to add in a border to my photo to make it stand out a little better. So I've used that big piece of ephemera, the blue, and then I've cut it down, and I've used it as it's not ephemera, sorry, it's from the backing sheet of the collection pack. You've got some extra ephemera there, so that's where that came from. Okay, so that is just kind of coming together okay now. I put a little bit of twine embroidery thread, the turquoise one, through the word today, and I've just fussy cut out that butterfly, and that's going to be raised up on foam pads next to the photo itself. Over on the right hand side, I have some word stickers and labels that are kind of like titles. So I've got Enjoy Life in the big green colour, and then I've got underneath around here, and then In the Moment. Now, In the Moment was a longer piece of ephemera, and I've cut that down because it just looked a bit too long, and it had the rounded corners, and I wasn't too happy with how that looked. So I've just chopped that down and made it square, distress the edges, of course. And I'm going to add in another little one of those gorgeous little navy bows. Yeah, I needed to bring something else, some more detail out to the top right. So I've added in 2 little tickets from the ephemera, of course, distress the edges, curled them up a little bit, stuck them together, and added another fussy cut flower up there as well. So that's all kind of coming together quite well. Just adding a little tab to the left-hand side of my photo, yeah, that's pretty much there. Now I'm going to spend some time faffing around with the title because I'm just really not overly happy with it. I'm just sorting out some sequins. I'm getting rid of the pink ones because the pink doesn't go with this collection. So I've pulled out some green and blue navy ones and the white kind of iridescent ones, and I'm just dotting those in a couple of places. So at the top right with the tickets, bottom left corner of the photo, and then a few around the title word stickers or word ephemeras. Enjoy life around here and in the moment. So I've just added a few around there as well. So just getting those stuck down. Okay, so this is me faffing around with my titles. So I have stuck it onto the piece of paper that came out of the middle of the wreath. And what I'm doing is I'm trimming around it. Now, I decide, after I've done all of this, I decide that it's no good and I take it off. I think it was because the paper was a bit too light. If it had been darker, it may have worked because I just felt it didn't go with the layout. So really, this part is completely up to you. Well, to be honest, everything in these classes is up to you. You can do, this is your layouts and you can do them however you want. But these are the two options I would suggest. So either do what I've done here and mount your perspective onto a piece of lighter colour cardstock or paper. Now, probably this wasn't stark white, but it was still very light, and I just didn't like how it looked. It stands out beautifully, but I just didn't like it. So I then took that off and stuck it directly over the paint. So you could do the same. You could either do this, what I just did, and mount it, or you could stick it directly to the paint, which I then decided wasn't good enough because it didn't show up very well. Or eventually what I did was, I don't do this on camera, by the way, so let me explain it to you now. As I just took my white paint after the layout was complete, and I added a section of white paint directly underneath where the title is going to sit. So exactly where I've just put the title there, I actually had to remove that again later and add a load of white. I kind of like stippled it on with the sponge again until I was happy that the area had been covered, because can you see here that this is the layout without it with white? And then now you can see this is the layout with the white, and you can see it just shows up so much better. And I just felt it was a much more natural look than when I had the outline, the paper outline around it. Okay, so anyway, I hope you ended up getting through to the end of this layout. Thank you very much for joining me in this class. That is the end of session 1.